All right, let's get into it. Today, we're tackling a huge topic for pretty much every educator out there. How do we actually build lessons that work in a world just flooded with tech? We're going to break down the skills you need, the blueprints to follow, and the practical steps to really make it all come together. I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? We have all this incredible digital stuff right at our fingertips, but the real trick is weaving it into our teaching so it actually deepens learning and grabs students' attention, instead of just becoming another distraction. So, where do we even start?
Well, here's the thing. The starting point isn't the tech itself. Not at all. It's about the skills our students need to make sense of the world they're living in right now. We have to kind of stretch our whole idea of what it even means to be literate these days. It's so much more than just reading and writing.
So this new kind of literacy really has three core parts. First up, you've got media literacy. Think of this as teaching students to be detectives, to question the ads, the videos, the social media they're scrolling through every single day. Then there's information literacy, which is all about finding what's trustworthy in a giant sea of online noise. And finally, ICT literacy. That's the hands-on skill of actually using the tools, whether it's putting together a presentation or working together on a doc. These are, without a doubt, the new fundamentals.
And you can really see the massive impact of this shift right here. We are moving from the column on the left, static books, one-way info, over to the right. With ICT, which just stands for Information and Communication Technology, our learning materials suddenly become dynamic, they're interactive. The whole classroom can transform from a lecture hall into this awesome collaborative workshop. Okay, so we've got the new skills, we've got the new materials, but just, throwing them all into a classroom and hoping for the best, that's just going to be chaos. What we really need is a plan, a blueprint. And for educators, that blueprint is what we call instructional design. So let's just quickly run through 4 of these foundational models. You can think of them as different tools in your teaching toolkit, right? Each one is perfect for a specific job, whether you're planning one single class or mapping out an entire year. First up is ADDIE. This is like the architect's master plan for a whole building. It's a 5-step cycle. You analyze who your students are, you design the learning journey, you develop the materials, you implement the lesson, and then, super important, you evaluate how it all went. This is the go-to for building a really solid course from the ground up. Now, if ADDIE is the blueprint for the whole house, then Gagnier's 9 events is kind of like the recipe for one perfect meal inside that house. It gives you 9 specific ingredients, in order, from grabbing students' attention right at the start to making sure they actually understood it at the end. It's an absolute classic for planning your day-to-day lessons. Next, we've got Bloom's taxonomy. Now, this one's a little different. It's not a step-by-step process. It's more like a ladder of thinking skills. It's all about pushing us as educators to move students beyond just remembering facts, that's the bottom of the ladder, and get them climbing up to higher levels like analyzing, evaluating, and, at the very top, creating something brand new. And finally, we have Merrill's principles. You can think of this as the why behind everything. Merrill's big, powerful idea is that we learn best when we are solving actual, real-world problems. So don't just lecture about physics, have your students try to build a tiny bridge. It's all about learning by doing, not just by listening.
Phew, okay. That was a lot of theory, I know. We've covered the new literacies, we've gone through the design blueprints, but the million-dollar question is, how do you actually make this happen in your classroom, day in and day out? How do you put it all into practice?
Well, it really boils down to this 4-step cycle. Step 1 is to introduce. Be intentional about bringing these kinds of lessons into your class. Step 2, select. This is huge. Choose the right tool for the learning goal, not just the shiniest new app. Step 3 is to foster. Use that tech to build a classroom that's more collaborative and flexible. And that leads us to what is honestly the most important part of the whole cycle,
which is reflection. I really want to pause here for a second. Reflection isn't just a quick, how did it go, at the end of the day. It's the engine for getting better. It's the difference between just randomly trying out new tech and strategically becoming a more effective teacher. It's where you ask the hard questions about what really worked and what didn't.
And those hard questions really boil down to these 2 words, relevance and appropriateness. Was the tool I used truly relevant to what I wanted my students to learn? And was it the most appropriate choice for this group of students right here, right now? Answering those 2 questions honestly is what separates just using gadgets from truly meaningful teaching. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. When you combine those 21st century skills with thoughtful design and a constant cycle of reflection, the end goal isn't to just use technology. The real goal is to create learning spaces that are more flexible, more collaborative, and way better suited for the world our students are actually going to live and work in.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. As these tools get more and more integrated into everything we do, are we just using tech as a tool to make the old classroom better, or are we actually fundamentally rebuilding the very idea of what a classroom even is? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.